And my Bible, every few verses, it's got a little caption over it about what's going on, or what it's about. And the one over verse 23 in my Bible is the terms of discipleship. And if I had the title of my message, it would be Hard Christianity.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say, he said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, I'll get to that in a minute. So don't put my message down because of that, because I'll get to it. I'm going to start reading in verse 23. And he said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. That's all I'm going to be reading. I already looked around the church as I got up to sing, and I believe about everybody here associates with Antioch.
Yeah.
About all of us. I looked to see if there was anybody that I knew was lost that came in. See, if you come to church all the time, I'm not for sure, but I can kind of guess at it by what you do when you're in here.
Right.
But he gave us steps and instructions and commandments in verse 23. And after you get saved, I know it says we're saved by grace through faith.
Yes.
And some people, I've heard a lot of people that even believe like I do, say I didn't do nothing to get saved. Well, if you really believe like that, you need to go to the predestination crowd, because you did do something.
Yeah, you did.
See, God gave you the grace and God gave you the faith, but He didn't make you use the faith.
That's right.
Every man's got a measure of it, even the lost.
That's
It's just
right.
whether if you use it or not. So you did do something.
Amen.
Use the faith that God had given you.
That's exactly right.
And after you get saved, He's given us 3 steps on how to be a disciple. And after you're saved, that's what He's called you to be.
Yeah.
Is to be a disciple. He said, if any man come after me, let him deny himself. And that's what I'm going to be looking at the most, because that's the hardest thing to do out of the 3 that I've found out. If you can get yourself out of the way, those next 2 are pretty easy.
That's right.
So how do you deny yourself? Now the 2 that I've thought about a lot, because we all do it, is eat and sleep. And I prayed that God would give me a confirmation this morning. And He did by the way Jason talked when he first got up, because I don't expect much more of a reaction than he got talking about this, because your flesh hates what I'm going to say.
It does.
Deny yourself.
Amen.
Everybody sleeps and everybody eats. Now when you go past that, you get into individual interests, and everybody's different. But everybody sleeps and eats. Well, are you telling me that I can't sleep? No. Are you telling me that I can't eat? No. Should you cut back on sleeping sometimes? Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you go to bed at night and you wake up just enough time to get your clothes on, say your 90-second prayer and run out the door,
Right.
you need to cut back on some sleep.
Amen.
That's not a prayer.
That's denial, ain't it?
Do you expect God to do anything in that?
Come on.
You fooled yourself if you do. If you think to go out and to be like a Paul or a Peter because you spent 90 seconds that morning, you're fooled.
That's right.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah, bless you, Lord.
You need to wake up an hour early. Spend half an hour in prayer. Spend half an hour reading.
Yeah, bless you, Jesus.
See, the Lord dealt with me about waking up early and praying. I always did it at nighttime. I started to realize, though, if I do it at nighttime, after I go to sleep and I wake up, that spirit of prayer has left me.
Yeah.
I went to sleep. I've got a new mind when I wake up. Now, if I'm relying on that prayer to go throughout the day, it don't work too good.
Bless you, Lord.
And the reason I do it at night is because I can't hardly keep my eyes open in the morning when I go to pray. And there's always ways to fix things like that. I told the Lord I can't pray in the morning times before work. I go get on my knees, and Hannah comes, wakes me up, and says, you're going to be late. I fall asleep every time. But what I was doing was going in my closet, leaving the light off, kneeling down on a blanket.
Yeah.
Be hard not to go to sleep, wouldn't it?
That's right.
He said, take the blanket out and turn the light on.
Amen.
There's a way that you can seek God if you really want to. You got to deny yourself.
Amen.
Now that's the sleeping. Let's get to the eating. You never hear that preached on anymore.
No, you don't.
Since I've been going to church, you never hear overeating preached on. And it is a sin. And it's got, I thank God for the conviction He's given me about eating. I feel closer to the Lord. And what you can do, like I told you last time, it's not about a man or a woman's weight. I know a man could follow me around for a week and eat exactly what I ate, and at the end of the week, he would gain 10 pounds and I wouldn't gain a thing.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. What has to do with it is when you eat, to where you're so full you got to sit at the table for 5 more minutes before you get up.
Yeah.
You've sinned. If you eat to where it feels like it's coming back out the top, you've sinned, and it's not funny because you've sinned.
Right. Bless you.
Sin is not funny to God.
Right. Bless you,
We need to get back to the biblical truths.
Amen.
Plain. That's why I said hard Christianity. It's not easy
Help him,
to
Jesus.
not sit down when your wife fixes steak and fries and devour all of it.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do to stop halfway through. You need to eat until you know you can be sustained for 3 or 4 hours and cut it off. Now, a lot of you think I'm crazy, but if you ever really want to get close to God, you'll listen to me.
Help him, Lord.
You got to deny yourself. And y'all pray for my mouth. I want to give you what the Lord's given me.
Yeah, that's good.
This first step's the one that the Lord's dealt with me on more than any of them.
Help him, Lord.
Because, see, if you get past yourself, that taking up the cross thing is pretty easy because Brandon's not in it.
That's right.
See, if you're filled with the Lord, you're not carrying the cross every day. Jesus is.
Yeah.
And He already has, so I know He can. It's getting this first one, denying yourself.
Amen.
It is so hard, and it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to listen. Even if you heed the message next Sunday, you won't come back and you won't be denied yet. It takes months.
Right.
It takes a lot of prayer, a lot of reading, and a lot of cutting things off. See, I've dealt lately with, I've got rid of every piece of entertainment I've had. I've cut it off, took the internet off my phone, got rid of my TV, got rid of the PlayStation, everything I can think of. And it's not that I can stand and say, they're going to send you to hell. And I prayed to the Lord about that, and He said they might keep you out of heaven.
Yeah.
So you can decide. I don't know that your PlayStation or your TV will send you to hell, but it might keep you out of heaven.
Bless you, Brandon.
That's something to think about.
Amen.
We need to get rid of these things and get back to seeking God.
Yes.
Paul, I've quoted this verse a lot because I like it in Galatians 2:20. Paul said, I am crucified with Christ.
Yes, sir.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you crucified with Him? What does that mean? You've lost everything. You know, when a man carried a cross, he carried it naked. That's awful shameful.
Yeah.
You got to lose it all. You got to
Amen.
lose all your pride.
Yeah.
Denying yourself means Brandon can't have anything.
Bless you, Brandon.
It doesn't say deny 50%. Deny a little bit. It says deny yourself.
All of it.
All of it.
Yes.
That's the only way that you can take up the cross and follow Him.
Right.
See, the Lord's dealt with me on this because there's a big church crowd. We got a lot of people here this morning.
Yeah.
For most churches, we got quite a bit. Like Jason said, the boy that's dealing with the demons, if he came in, I would say that he probably wouldn't get no help.
Right.
Not because of the Lord, but because of us.
Yes.
We've not denied ourselves.
Yeah, bless you, Lord.
But a lot of people, see, it said, if any man come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. About everybody I know follows Him.
Yeah.
About everybody I know follows Him. Nobody's got a cross on their back, though. They're just walking with Him, like those people with the fishes and the loaves.
That's right.
See, it's easy to follow Him, but how many was with Him up there when He prayed? And His sweat came as blood. When it got real tough, how many was standing with Him?
Amen.
At one point, everybody left Him. But see, they didn't have the Holy Ghost yet. They didn't have the promise.
Right.
Now, He can be with us all the time. But you have to deny yourself, because I'm telling you, the Holy Ghost isn't going to live with Brandon.
Amen.
He's not going to do it. We're a vessel, and it's all about what you fill it with. If you fill it with television, if you fill it with Facebook, if you fill it with PlayStation, if you fill it with hunting, if you fill it with fishing, don't expect to come in here and the walls fall down when we start preaching and singing and praising.
Amen.
Because it's not going to happen.
That's right, Brandon.
We got to get back to this. I say New Testament Christianity a lot. My wife told me a few weeks ago, you need to stop saying that because nobody knows what you're talking about. I'm talking about these Christians in the New Testament were men set apart.
Right.
They weren't like the normal crowd. They were unusual.
Amen.
The shadows was healing people.
Yeah.
You could pull a lame man in front of their shadow and he'd get up walking.
Yes, sir.
I talked to a preacher a while back and he said, I believe it was just for those men. If I believe that, I would rip Acts out of my Bible.
Amen.
I don't care about what men can do if it doesn't profit me any.
Help him, Lord.
I got to have something to help me.
That's right, Brandon.
And I've really struggled with the baptism of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, bless you, Jesus.
It's really just a word in my generation. All the kids my age and younger don't know much about it. I teach them in Sunday school. They don't know, and I don't know much about it, and it bothers me.
Bless you, Lord.
See, Jason is going to have to answer for my generation.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You're not just going to answer for yourself. You're going to answer for the generation under you. I'm going to answer for your kids' generations. And it's going to keep going. We have to get a hold of the Lord.
Amen, Brandon.
You're never going to do it in what we're doing Sunday after Sunday.
That's right.
You need to examine yourselves. If you can come, see, 3 days of church a week doesn't do anything. I don't have that problem. I would not be here if I didn't really have God. I'd be out there doing drugs or something. I can't just come in here and sit, but I know some people can because they do. I see it. If you can come in and never raise your hands,
Amen.
never come and pray, never testify, you're lost.
Yeah.
You're not fooling nobody. We all see it. You're fooling yourself.
Bless you, Lord.
You're fooling yourself. Paul said you did run well, but who did hinder you? You know, I'll have to answer for being hindered and letting it bother me. But the ones of you that come and hinder us, you're going to have to answer for being a hindrance on God's people. See, there's some sheep in here, but there's some goats too. Now, if you're not really going to get serious and get in, I've done told the Lord, I said, I'm going to set my prayers against them. And I believe in prayer more than anything. I am praying that God would get you out of Antioch if you're not going to get serious. Are you saying you're talking to the lost man that comes in? No, I want them to be saved. I'm talking to you that come in every service, hear men of God preach, and you sit there. You're hindering us. I wish you'd get out. And I'm going to pray you out or I'm going to pray you in. But if you keep not heeding, I'd say God's going to send you out. He said, if any man come after me, let him deny himself. It's going to take fasting. It's going to take prayer. It's going to take Bible reading. And you know, with prayer, a good reason to cut all those other things off, when I still had television, I'd watch a TV show, nothing bad, but I'd watch something, 30 minutes, cut it off, and then I'd go to my place of prayer. And the first 15 minutes, I'd try to get that out of my mind so I could pray. Yeah. You got to get rid of all these things to really connect with God. Amen. He's coming for a bride without spot or blemish. And I've had a burden for the church since God's called me to preach. Every man's got his own burden, but I feel like there's some mud on the wedding dress. We got to get it off. See, the Lord gave me something the other night in prayer. This is the beauty of praying. God will talk to you. In His day, He said there was 5 wise and 5 foolish. There was 10 virgins. Virgins is a sign of purity. To me, that means that they were all ready at one point in time.
Sure they was, yeah.
He said, in my day when I gave it, there was 5 ready. He said, son, now if you stood and gave the parable, he said there would only be 1. Yeah. It went from 5 out of the 10 to 1 out of 10. Yeah. I don't know how many people's here, but let's say 100. There's only about 10 of you that's really got a hold of something. That's really got a hold of it.
Bless you, Brandon.
And you know who you are. You know if you got it that my message isn't going to you.
Amen.
You know if you don't that my message is going to you.
Good preaching, buddy.
How many times do you come in and not raise your hands? How many times do you come in and not have a song? I'm doing this because I love you. I want to see you get in. I don't want to get up every time and feel like I'm pounding you. But I want you to know what you're reading in the New Testament isn't Antioch. That's not it. And it's not just Antioch. It's in every church.
It is, Brandon.
We got to get back to the truth.
Amen.
Gluttony is a sin. Get back to cutting yourself back on food. Like I said, God's dealt with me with that a lot because I don't see it. About everybody I eat dinner with, they clear their plate. Yeah. And I think, good Lord, how in the world do they eat all that? And they do. They'll sit there for 5 minutes saying, I'm stuffed. I can't get up. You've sinned. Yeah. And you'll go to bed and not even pray about that because you're foolish about it.
Bless you, Lord.
It is a sin. All these things, deny yourself. That's what I feel like God's given me, is just to tell the people, you can't have Him and have the world. You can't have Him and have yourself.
That's right.
There's a lot of things I'm not certain that they'll send you to hell, but they might keep you out of heaven. And I wouldn't chance it.
No.
I wouldn't chance it if you really want God. Like I've said, that word, the Holy Ghost, is unknown in my generation. I want to know what it is. At night my wife shouted, I felt something that made my knees shake. I want double that.
Amen.
I want to see the young people get in, the old people get in, and the body be moving. Sarah, will you come play something for me?
Yeah, it's good, Brandon. Yeah, bless you, Lord. That's really good. Praise the Lord.
I love all y'all.
Amen.
And I prayed about this morning, that God would give me a good spirit because I don't want to get up and y'all to feel like I'm being hateful. But it's just the Bible. It's as plain as day. And we're looking over it. If any man, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it. Whosoever will lose his life shall save it. Have you lost your life, Walter?
Yeah, that's good. Come on.
Have you lost your life? That's the only way you'll save it, is if you lose it. Have you lost your life?
That's right.
See, you preach stuff like this and they call you a legalist and a fanatic.
It's all right.
This is what it's going to take.
Bless you, Lord.
Like I said above these verses, the terms of discipleship. What did he say to the rich young ruler? And you know why I like that? Because after he told the Lord, I've kept all these commandments from my youth up, Jesus didn't say he didn't. And I've always thought this was a good man.
Yeah.
The Lord didn't say, no, you didn't, you've lied. He said, go and sell all that you have and follow me.
Yeah.
Go get rid of all of you and come follow after all of me.
Amen.
And that one thing,
One thing thou lackest, yeah.
lacked one thing. I believed he kept all the commandments besides this one. It is a commandment to deny yourself, to get rid of everything. You can go ahead, Sarah.
Help him, Lord.
I want you to raise your hands if you're saved. Okay, you've witnessed to the Lord with your hand that you're saved. What did he say to do after you're saved? You see what I'm saying? See, it's not easy to take up a cross. Like I said, you got to be naked, which is a sign of shamefulness. Before a man carried a cross, he had to get whipped about 100 times. Oh, it's hard to pick it up if yourself is in the way. You'll get halfway through and you'll drop it. But if I can get rid of Brandon and get full of that Spirit, then those second two, the taking up your cross and the following me, it'll be a cakewalk. Because the Lord will do it for you. You just got to get yourself out of the way. Does anybody want to? Please don't come. Please don't come if you're not serious.
That's right.
Please don't come up here if you're not really going to seek God. I don't want you to. I'd rather not a soul come pray.
Right.
But if you really want to get a hold of Him, if, like Jason said, when you hear a message and it changes you, changes your whole life, you got to make the decision. It's like I said, there's things we have to do just like there was when we got saved. There's some things you have to do. You got to say, God, I want to deny myself. Help me. Help me to get rid of some things that's coming between us. Help me to quit eating so much. I'm going to preach that because it's Bible. It's sin to do that too much, to overeat. That's why we're as lazy as we are. Now, if you're content, and we had a service during youth camp that was one of the best I've ever been in. You say, well, it's because you got blessed. It may have been. If you're content with what we have Sunday after Sunday, then keep sitting there. I'm not, though. If a church down the road catches fire, I'll be gone. I won't just stay here because Jason's my father-in-law. I want to be where God's at. I love all of you. I want to see you seek Him. Because it's going to take every one of you. You raised your hand and associated yourself with Antioch. You said, I'm part of the body. It's going to take all of us. We can't have everything moving and our leg be numb.